Guys, it's me, that fish guy. So this is all the props from various retailers, most of it's Spirit, obviously, from 2020 that I've purchased besides Tina, Nightcrawler, and the Banshee from Costco. So those are kind of omitted from this. But what I'm basically going to be doing is going through each of these rows of props that I have here, all within, a similar price range, and telling you which one I would recommend most out of each row. So starting way in the back, which I'm going to have to zoom in here, is Krampus. And Krampus is a super cool prop. He's pretty overrated this year. Everybody really enjoys him. You all kind of know what he does. He turns side to side and he has the howling sound and his eyes light up. He retails for $350, which is kind of ridiculous in my opinion. No matter how much detail he has, he doesn't really make up for that price tag. So out of the three in the back row there that range from 300 plus, he's probably the last one I would recommend getting just because of his price tag and the fact that he doesn't really fit Halloween. So back there is the Harvester of Souls, and once again, I apologize. I'm not going to be demoing these props because I have individual demos of most of them. So Harvester of Souls retails for $300. We all know what he does. He lifts up the girl and sucks her soul out. It's pretty unique animation. Really kind of an idea that we haven't seen, this interaction between these two props since like 2014. Recently we just kind of been getting like boring props that don't really have any interactive elements of them. So he's really cool. He's probably one of the ones that people would want the most out of the $300 price range. I still don't think he's quite worth it because you need the fog machine for him to look really good. But aside from that, he's pretty cool. He's definitely not my favorite out of that row though. So all the way in the back there, who's going to be impossible to see, is Daisy and the Maestro. They are definitely the one that I would recommend you get out of the $300 price range. Try to get a zoom in on Daisy there. The little girl has a lot of detail. The Maestro himself has a lot of detail. They both look incredibly realistic and creepy. Really the only issue that I'd have with them is they are pretty overpriced, and Daisy's body wasn't stuffed very well, so I did have to go and customize that. But aside from that, I think they're probably the number one prop I would get out of that row of the range of Spirit props that are $300 plus. So starting in this row, this was supposed to be my $200 row, but I forgot the Gatekeeper was $170, so he's just included here anyway. So he retails for $170. He's online only, unfortunately. He's fairly large. He's a 6-foot prop. A little bit taller than Flesh Eating Zombie right there. He moves the lantern back and forth. His eyes light up. He's definitely the best out of the flashback props. He stays really true to the original. His speaker is very loud. And really, in his case, I think he's the only prop that they consistently improved. Out of the $200 price range here, which, he technically doesn't fall within, he's probably the one I would recommend the most. So over here is Flesh Eating Zombie. Big difference between him and Gatekeeper. Flesh Eating Zombie's barely even recognizable as the original. He's also online only. He retails for $200. He does have 3 animations, which is pretty good for $200 nowadays. The paint job that he came with was very, very, very bad. All that you see on his face is a repaint by me, which isn't really good either, but it was way better than the weird pinkish blood that he came with. So I tried to make him look a little bit more like the original there. I had to stuff his face because his face isn't fully stuffed. It's just kind of like a loose mask. And as you can see, there's still an eye that's deformed because of the way they designed him. I really like the hands on this guy. That's kind of something that's hard to zoom in there. But the hands and the clothing and the body structure on him is really good. Really, the biggest fail he has is his face, but he's probably one of the most worth it props this year just because of all the animation you get with him for the price. So over here is Miss Mercy, and she's probably my least favorite out of these 3 $200 props, although she kind of competes with Flesh Eating Zombie. I do think she's the least worth it, although she is quite a bit creepier than the Flesh Eating Zombie. But as you can see, this is a custom bandage that I made for her. It doesn't really look that good. I need to do another one. But I made that just because the bandage she comes with is very, very bad. It's gray and it has random blood splotches everywhere. It just didn't look too good. Her actual face detail is really good. We all know what she does. You know, she spins around, or her head spins around, and she turns side to side. A lot of the times her animation looks ghostly, the way she kind of like glides, especially when her head is turning in the same direction as her body. And it actually creates this really cool like urban legend kind of effect to her, which is really what drew me to her. She's $200. Compared to these other two over here, she's a lot better made. The metal that they use for her is super durable as compared to the flimsy kind they use with most props. And she does have that stuffed foam body, but I still think she's not quite worth it, especially for her height. Because as you can see here, she's basically the same height as Marie. So here is the 150 to 170 price range, which also includes Gatekeeper, but I covered them. So starting over here, the cheapest of them all is the Lady of the Grave from Party City. Now she looks super cool. Her animation is awesome. She's very tall. As you can see, she's basically as tall as a Gatekeeper, and he's like 6 feet tall. So she gets very tall. She rises up, her arms move, and she like lowers herself back down. Really ghostly looking effect to her. She doesn't have much detail, unlike the other props in this price range, but I mean, she doesn't really need it because she's a ghost. Her face has, you know, enough detail to where it looks creepy. Her hands, that's really kind of where I think they fail a little bit. You can see like the plastic lines and stuff there. They could have done a little bit more with the painting on the hands, but her face is really good. And generally, this prop is probably the best priced out of all these animatronics I'm showing here. So she definitely is one I would recommend. Right over here is Miserable Marie. As you all know, she's my favorite prop of the year, and probably, and I apologize for my birds in the background, and probably one of my favorite props of all time. Her face is super duper creepy. Her body is all like rugged and ragged, I guess I should say. Her gown is bloody and worn, and her animation is super good. It makes her jaw rattle, which looks really cool. And she definitely has a lot of detail and work that was put into her with the audio and just the detail in general. So coming over here is Angeline, probably the worst of the props in this price range. Her face regularly comes deformed, as you can see, mine is deformed. But she does have a lot of animations, unlike the other props in this price range, aside from Lady of the Grave. She has 3 whole animations. We all have seen her. We all know what she does. Her IR sensor is hidden really well right there. I never even noticed it. And she comes with this super cool detailed plastic tombstone. I actually think she's quite cool. I definitely think she hits the vibe a lot better than Lonely Laura. She looks like a ghost from the 1800s in my eyes. But I definitely think her phrases could have been a lot creepier. And maybe her face as a whole could have been way creepier. But, you know. So, here's Ellie Hatchet. I think she's probably a little bit less than Angeline, in my opinion. So, as you can tell, I've heavily modded her too. The Ellie that you actually get, it's kind of lackluster. Her face is super duper pale, so I went over it with a dirty color just because it was so unrealistically pale that it just didn't look good. I added some like fake blood texture that I made there, which I made to where I can wipe it off if I ever get dissatisfied with it. The axe was not dry brushed or anything. It didn't have much detail on it, so I did my best I could to make her look good because I really like the animation. And, you know, she's one of the very few props that we've gotten lately that actually swings her weapon at you. So over here is Punctured Pete. He's definitely my least favorite of this price range that I have right here. His face is super duper cool. It has a lot of detail in the sculpt, but not in the paint job. The paint job does not look very good. The worst thing about him is his price, though. He's pretty small for being $170. The animation, I actually think, is super duper cool. But for the price you're paying, he's not really all that great. But I do love that animation a lot. So, another prop I have to mention in here is the Nightcrawler, and he's sold for $200. He was technically in the $200 price range. I was not about to set him up again. His setup is impossible. But with the Nightcrawler, he's another prop that I probably won't recommend, only because of the setup and the quality's kind of sketchy. So, moving over here, we have a lot lesser of a price range, minus Twisted Tina, who would also be in here, and the Banshee from Costco. So, this is the Super Varmint. We've all seen him. We all know what he does. He has a lot of detail on him, which is really what makes me like him the most. As you can see, he's pretty damn large, and that's not including his tail, which stretches all the way over here. In general, he's a pretty well-made animatronic. The animation is a little bit lackluster, though. I do love all the detail that was put into him. The price, $130, way too much. He should probably be more like $80. And ideally, I wouldn't really want that animation on him. I think he'd be better as a static for about $60. So this is my favorite of the $100 price range, Mommy's favorite. And she gets a lot of hate because she doesn't really do much, but I think it really benefits her. She's a constant motion prop, which I think is, I also forgot to mention that on Pete, but constant motion is always useful in a haunt. And her face is just super creepy and realistic. And I just think she has a lot of storytelling potential on her. And she's only $100, and she's fairly large. If you can see her in comparison to everything else here, she's taller than Pete, almost as tall as Angeline, and taller than Ellie Hatchet. So you get quite a lot for the $100 price tag that you pay. And this is just kind of an aside here, but this is the Twitching Banshee from Costco. She would also be in this price range. She's only $80, which is not much at all. She's probably the best priced out of all those props, but Mommy's favorite still takes the cake for me. So, going back to all these, who would I recommend out of each row? So, Maestro would be my first recommendation out of the $300 plus props, which are out of most people's price range. Gatekeeper would be the one I would recommend in this $170 to $200 range over here. Miserable Marie is the one I'd recommend in this wide price range right here that I forgot to include the Gatekeeper in. And Mommy's favorite is the cheapest one I would recommend. So if you can only buy a few props this year, those are definitely the ones I would snatch up. So, thank you guys for watching this. I'm sorry, this has been an incredibly long video, which you usually don't see from me, and it's also not very edited, so I will be making demos on most of these props if I haven't already. So, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.